tomorrow is not promised. It's hard, but with consistency, hard work, consistency, smart work, there's a way forward. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. On the 23rd of August 2016, he passed away right in front of me. In 2020, 1st of January, my mom passed away. Also became the Adobe Lightroom splash screen artist. So when you open up Lightroom, you have my image over there. One moment I feel like I've actually done something. The next moment, it feels like life is telling me that, oh, you really thought that you've gotten out of it. Next stage. I'm Michael Aboya, and I'm a photographer and visual artist in Ghana. And basically, I find joy in capturing and telling stories. Not just any story, but stories that really makes us and identify what makes us who we truly are as a people. My journey as a photographer started in 2016, but before then, I was studying computer science in school. Basically, that was what everyone in the family wanted me to do, including myself, because I was the most tech-oriented guy in the family. When my dad buys the new phone, he comes to me to set it up. My mom, the same thing. When something gets faults in the house, they blame me for it because I'm the one that knows how to do stuff on that side and all. It was going well, and I felt that I had everything on track because I was doing well in school, especially in the sense of computer science. In Ghana, we say IT or so. But then my dad was battling cancer, and this was like a whole struggle in the family because it got to a point I couldn't think straight, and I had to be in constant prayer for my dad because it was getting really serious, especially with the pictures that my mom would send and all that stuff. It got to this point where I totally lost it because now they had to attach a bag by his side where he would pee on and all that. So I got really worried for him and all that. This persisted for 4 years, and he had to move to the US for surgery and was going through chemotherapy and all that. So he lost weight and became very slim. And this was the first time seeing my dad in such nature. Going through all of that, one thing I did notice is that he found strength to be there for those who really mattered the most, and that's his family. He was always praying for us, calling to check up on us. And I felt that on a normal, this should always be the other way around. We should rather be, and we were doing that, but he was also doing his part as well. Well, at the time, I really wouldn't use the term photography. I just love taking pictures. I was always that guy in the group of friends that's always making sure that the pictures are being taken, especially when we go hang out. Because for me, I always like to look back and see that we did this through an image or some form of video and stuff like that. So my journey started, but I didn't really know it. It didn't really occur to me that it already began. I was just doing it, and I was happy doing it. But on the side, I was focusing on being very good at computer science and coming out to maybe develop a program, a software, stuff like that. Then in 2016, August, my dad came back from the US to Ghana, and this time was more of a surprise visit. But when he came back, he didn't come back with my mom because my mom was with him, taking care of him over there. So it was quite surprising. And then also when he came, he was on a wheelchair. He couldn't walk. So I was very worried that why is he coming back when he's not yet fine? I realized that there were certain patterns. It felt more like he was coming to say goodbye, kind of to see his children and all that. I didn't think about it at the time, but now when I think about it, that's how I view it, that he was actually coming to say goodbye and stuff like that. On the 23rd of August 2016, he passed away right in front of me. That's like a whole like story and all that. But then that was my wake-up call, because the moment he passed away, I felt like something hit me, where for the first time in my life, I've just seen someone pass away, like giving out their last breath. And I've always seen this in movies. I've always heard stories of people passing on and all that. But then my dad passing away, especially he meaning so much to me, for the first time in my life, I felt alone. I felt lost. And I just realized that, man, we're not immortal after all. We're going to die at some point. And I realized that we all have limited time. And the big question I ask myself is, what am I using my limited time for? Do I want to spend that time doing something that I truly love, or keep doing what society demands of me? And it wasn't easy for me to choose, because although what I really loved was staring me right in the face, I couldn't see it because of what was happening at the time. So I felt drowned in the midst of loneliness, not knowing what to do, what steps to take, because my dad was like a guide to me. And now that he's no longer there, how do I do this? And I can remember this like it was yesterday, because one thing he did say was, Michael, take care of the family. And I was 19. How am I to do that? I have no idea what the real life, like the real world looks like how am I going to do that? So after saying that, it kind of like made me feel like I have a responsibility now. It feels like he's giving me a task, but how to go about with those tasks, I had no idea. So I was very lost. I was so quiet. I didn't talk to anybody for like a few days. Quiet. I couldn't cry. The tears were not coming. For a couple of months, I was like quite lost, especially when my dad was having like the funeral and all that stuff. And that's when the tears actually broke out, because then it finally really like dawned on me that, man, he's actually gone. And now I have to stand in, no longer be that boy, I've become that man for the family. The irony is that I was trying too hard to be that man, but then I started crying. And then everyone around kept saying, don't cry, he's in a better place and all that. But I sit down there and I'm like, yes, he's in a better place. I want to believe that, but I feel that maybe the other better place would be right here with his family. And that's what he would have wanted as well. But reality is he's no longer here. In the midst of thinking and trying to realize and find out who I am, and keep asking myself, why am I here? What is my purpose? Then I started to pay very close attention to things that I really like doing, and things that make me feel my essence of being alive. And the first one that came to mind was music. I have a guitar my dad bought to me. That was like the last gift he ever gave me, and I still have it up to now. Although I don't play as much as I used to at first, I've kept it like a treasure, because it reminds me of my dad's love for music, because he was a dancer as well. And I thought maybe that was my path. That was where I had to be on. Because anytime I listen to music, there's this relief. It made me forget whatever suffering I was going through, and puts me in a place of comfort, in a place of where I felt safe. After a while, I realized that this music is not mine, because my voice singing is horrible and all that stuff. So I'm like, this is not the way. I love music, but I feel music is pushing me somewhere else, not pulling me to it, but pushing me to something else. So I had to figure out what it was. But bear in mind that the whole time I was trying to figure this out, I was doing that actual thing, and which is taking pictures. I just didn't realize it. And I found myself moving around, capturing, taking pictures of the little things, regardless of whatever it is, just for me to sit back and be like, okay, I was here, I was doing this, I was with this person, and stuff like that. So I got my school fees. I was supposed to go back to school. But then I realized that my mom wouldn't be able to take care of the 4 boys. It was me, firstborn, my brother Daniel, David, and Jephthah. The whole time I was thinking, I was more of like, I feel like I should take myself out of the equation to make the burden or the weight on my mom a little bit lighter. So I decided that I was going to take myself out, look for some form of work that I can do, and then start paying my fees. But the whole time I was thinking, I couldn't think of anything. But then one night I was sitting down and then realized that I had my fees with me. Like, I was holding it. So it was 2 things. Do you really want to take and pay these fees, knowing that she wouldn't be able to pay the next one? You know very well that you wouldn't be able to pay the next one as well. Or do you want to use these fees to start something, and then that thing would actually turn out to be bigger, and then you can continue in school? With a lot of thinking and processing and sometimes missing classes, I realized it finally snapped me that maybe I should get myself a camera and start taking some pictures. And while taking those pictures, I can maybe charge people and get the money back and pay for my fees again. I thought about it, like, think about it. Using your fees to go buy a camera, that's like suicide in a way, because you're throwing your education away and you're risking it for something you don't know if it's going to work on that. But then I thought that I didn't have so much choice or options, so I immediately just closed my eye and just went out there, looked for a camera, and I bought it. And that is a Canon T3. That was my first camera. It felt good. At the same time, I felt bad because now I know that I've just used all my school fees for a camera. But at the second time, I realized that I finally have the power to actually do something about it, about my situation, about my family situation. And at the same time, I could finally use photography as a way to really understand what makes me who I am. It started from what makes me who I am to what makes us who we are as a people. Because I realized that through the whole process of trying to find out who I am, it wasn't just about me, because every single person is going through some form of troubles themselves, some form of setbacks that makes them question their reality and their existence. One way or another, everybody kind of finds a way to go through and pass through those circumstances. So I really wanted to understand how, and the best way for me to do that was through photography. And that is how my journey in photography started, through the loss of my dad and waking up to my reality and understanding that I have a limited time, and then also being in the search to find out who I truly am. And that question of who I truly am changed from that to who we truly are as a people, and I just went with it. In class, I was the quiet one, always very quiet. I always loved to sit at the back, but I realized that the back was filled with the loud ones, so that I found myself going back to the front. But then also at the front, I realized that you're always the one that gets pointed at by the teacher to answer certain questions. So then from the front, I went to the middle. In the middle, I realized that it gives me more opportunity to kind of observe and know the people around me and who to stick with and who not to stick with, who pulls me forward and who pulls me backward. In the classroom, I was always the quiet one. I think I'll be that kid that you would bully. You would fight to bully because I wouldn't respond. I wouldn't act in any way or any sort. I would take it just the way it comes. And but I was really friendly. I always had to have friends and people to hang out with, to talk to, and stuff like that. But then I wouldn't really say that I lost the inner child in me, because whatever gathering I found myself or I'm at, just the same way I was in the classroom is the same way I am now, because I'm still the quiet one. I'm very observant. I always pay attention to the people around me, and then I can decide that, okay, this person, I don't think his lifestyle fits me. He would pull me back, especially if I need to focus and put myself forward. This person is someone that I feel I can talk to and can guide me forward. It's the same thing. So I think the inner child is really important, especially when we need it the most, especially when we find ourselves in a world that is constantly trying to make us someone else. Our inner child is like an aspect of our lives that we really need to hold out to keep ourselves on track. Because I can quite remember that when I was a kid, I never really bothered myself about what food I was going to eat the next day or what I was going to do the next hour. It was just playing itself out. My parents always cared, they always provided, and now I truly really appreciate like the struggles they had put in to make me who I am today. But at the time I never really understood that. And at this point where I find myself in the same situation they did, I realized that it's hard, but then at the same time, mixing my inner child with that sense of it being hard, I try my best not to worry about the future, but worry about the present, because that way I know that whatever I do right now helps shape my reality and helps shape my future. So the more I make good decisions, I know that it will take me to a better place in the future. When I started, I wouldn't really say desperate, but I was really, really looking for a way out of something that I felt held me back. So I was constantly on a search, looking, grinding, trying to figure out how I can make a change. Because at the same time, I felt, especially with what my dad had said, I felt I had a responsibility to do something about my family situation. And my mom at the time needed like ways and means to find work to do one or two stuff, but it was really hard for her. And with my dad not being around, it was much more difficult. So I felt that I could one way or another do something for her. So I was constantly trying my best to figure that out. So what happened was that I was always working, and this resulted in me being alone, because now I no longer cared about like friends. I no longer cared about those close to me. I no longer cared about myself even at some point, because I wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't trying to rest or stuff like that. Although there was a certain advantage in there, because it looked like I was moving faster. In the other sense, I was moving slower, because now I started to like get sick. I was so tired. You could tell looking at me that there's something wrong somewhere. I lost connection with like friends, including those who like truly cared. That was a problem. But for me at the time, I didn't really see it as a problem. I saw it as a necessary step, or like a sacrifice kind of. But then getting gradually along the line, I realized that there's something called balance, where you have to differentiate between your personal life and your purpose. As much as you put into figuring out your purpose and being a better version of yourself, you also have to figure out your personal life and be a better version of yourself on that aspect as well. So a day for me now is basically divided into two: making sure that my brothers are okay, family is okay, those I care about, I get in touch, or if I'm not able to get in touch, one way or another, I just know that, just have it in mind that they are okay. And then I also focus on work a little and see where I can improve. Sometimes I don't even need to lift up my camera and shoot. It's just like an idea pops up, and then I write it down and be like, oh, this is a great one, and try to figure out ways and means to make it happen. Or listen to music, get my imaginative sense kicking up and all that stuff. Or the usual, going on YouTube, learning from other photographers and seeing what they are currently up to, get myself inspired and go out there and do something inspiring as well. When I got my camera, my first camera, it was a little bit overwhelming, because compared to what I normally do with my phone or my dad's phone or my mom's phone, was that I just raised it up and then I start clicking on the shutter and take the pictures. But when I got the camera, it was a little bit overwhelming because now I'm seeing MAP and all that stuff, and I'm like, yo, what's all this? And it was a little bit confusing. I'm seeing ISO and then numbers around it, and I was a little bit worried that, oh, this looks difficult. That it seems, I thought I was just going to like take pictures and that's all. But then I initially wanted to go to a photography school to learn, but then I realized that that was way expensive, even more than the computer school that I was going to. So what I did was that I would do a monthly subscription to the internet, and then I would spend time on YouTube watching other photographers use a camera and what the M stands for, what A stands for, and the best situations to use it. And then I'll step out and practice myself. So I was shooting like little stuff like plants, flowers, just to get an idea on how those works. And then I'll come back, and then the bigger overwhelming stuff was how to use Photoshop or Lightroom, because compared to the buttons on my camera, there were a lot of them on Lightroom and Photoshop, and I really couldn't figure that out. So then I went with the same step by going online and seeing how other photographers were using the softwares to edit their images and stuff like that. And I was always practicing, always going out, really didn't care. At the time, you find me in the night shooting, like I'm on the roadside with my camera. I wasn't like, on a normal, someone would be thinking, oh, isn't this place dangerous? Wouldn't someone come steal your camera and all that? Wasn't thinking about, like, my mind, every sense of safety logic was just turned off, and I was just out there thinking about shooting at night, doing long exposures, shooting architecture, understanding light, daytime and nighttime. And I kept doing that every single day until I mastered and got used to it, until it basically became more like muscle memory, where I really didn't have to think. I just kind of like do what felt natural at a specific time. Getting clients is basically two things for me. One is reaching out and saying, hey, I have this idea, and I think if I do this for you, it'll work and promote whatever campaign that you're trying to run, and just draw out a plan and send it to multiple people you feel you can do something for. They won't all come true, but definitely one of those, two of those will come true, and then you have an opportunity to prove yourself and do exactly as you said you will. Or two, just be very consistent at what you do and make sure that you stand out from the crowd, because in today's world, everyone is a photographer. Every single person, everyone with a good phone, good iPhone, good Samsung phone would take a great picture. But then the thing about you and everyone else is what makes you different, and that's what makes you stand out from the crowd. Even at this point, we have AI photography and all that stuff. There's not much to say on that aspect. It's just you finding your voice, because you can go on YouTube, you can learn all the technical aspects, but I've never been on YouTube to find anyone that says, hey, Michael, look, this is how you use your voice in photography. Go out and speak. I had to find that for myself. And I realized that after finding my voice through photography and being able to speak for myself and speak for others, it helped me stand out from a whole crowd of other photographers. So now you find yourself in a place where people need you, not just because you can click and take a picture, but because they need your voice to be able to speak for them and speak for their products or speak for them in terms of a story or whatever it is. Having a team is important, and also understanding your journey is also important as well. Having a team helps you kind of like move faster. I think there's a saying that if you want to go fast, move alone, but if you want to go far, move together. So if you have a team who really understand like what your goals are and what you're trying to achieve, and they can all come together and do and make stuff happen. Perfect. Especially with me, because I started with a sense of finding out who I am, and it felt more of like a personal journey of understanding my purpose and understanding life. As I started my path, I wouldn't say alone, but it felt like I started something by myself. And then it gets to a point where you start pulling people along with you, and people want to also be part of that journey. People want to understand what that journey is. People are inspired by it, and people also want to find out what makes them who they are as well. This is where I feel brings the difference between like a commercial style of photographer that has like a whole team, a whole group, a wedding photographer, and someone who is like an adventure kind of photographer where he's out there going through the pages of the world and trying to understand their purpose and trying to understand the essence of life, and also at the same time not moving by himself but bringing people along with him as well, kind of. Tomorrow is not promised. It's hard, but with consistency, hard work, consistency, smart work, there's a way forward. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. So it's basically just keep going, being who you are, stay true to yourself, believe, and you would always find something that you can call your own. Smart work, unlike hard work, is basically knowing where you truly belong and being able to put yourself in there, because you can work as hard as you want, sweat as much as you want, but if you put yourself in a crowd that does not recognize you or does not love what you do, does not appreciate what you do, and do not understand what you do, you'll always be at the same place. But when you do smart work, which is identifying where you can call your home, where you feel at home, where you don't feel as like an outsider, and put all that you do in there, then you move exactly as you always was, like you were meant to move. And I feel that would be smart work for me. So in the span of 6 years or less, with a lot of hard work, smart work, and believing, praying, and asking God to put me in the right places that I really need to be in, it started basically with me always going out there, showing up, presenting my work, and like trying to prove that this is what I can do. I had a lot of people say, hey, how are you gonna feed yourself doing this type of work? Who pays you to do stuff like this? The reason why I'm saying that is because I never really saw myself fitting in the event space of things. Anytime I was shooting events, I felt a little bit lost. I felt like this is not where I was meant to be. I felt like I wasn't being focused enough. So I removed myself from that space and placed myself in the place where I really wanted to be, which was a little bit more difficult because the truth was that no one was paying me to do any of that. But then I felt it was necessary, especially for the reason why I started photography. But at the same time, if I say that I didn't need money, I'll be lying, because I needed to take care of myself. I needed to take care of my family as well. So I needed to figure out how to go about that. So I found a job working at this company for their products. And whilst I was doing that, I was also learning on the side to do my own stuff. So I was making some money, and then I was doing my own. But then it got to a point, I realized that as much as I wanted to do the two, one, which was working for the company, was really dragging me out of where I truly belonged. So I made another bold decision to stop working for them and focus on what I actually wanted to do. 1st January 2019, I stopped working for the company and went on my own path. And in the process, it was really hard because at the time I didn't even have a place to lay my head. So I had to figure out like where to sleep, because that's the first part of every journey, where you would come back home to edit and do all that stuff. And it was really hard because as much as I wanted all the freedom that I could get, you know, when you're staying with someone, you don't have all that freedom. And you always have to make sure you're in that person's right books and to make sure you don't get kicked out or something like that. That's how it started. And on one fateful day, I didn't have anything to do. And I can remember it so vividly well. A song from Bob Marley came up titled Redemption Song. And what really caught my attention was, you know, sometimes we listen to music and the other time we pay attention to the words from the music. And at this particular time, I was really paying attention to the words. And there was a part where he said, emancipate yourself from mental slavery because none but ourselves can free our minds. And when I heard that, something like there was a kick in my imaginative sense. And I could see myself with a lot of people behind me, which I would signify as family, singing together and being together and embracing that whole idea of unity and moving as one strong force. So I wrote it down immediately, and the vision was basically me playing a musical instrument, which basically was a guitar, and then people behind me. So I tried to bring that into a photograph. And with all that I've learned, especially before being with the company and being with the company, with all that I've learned, I had to figure out how to bring this story out in an emotional sense so that when you look at it, it's not just going to be like one normal image. So instead of using a guitar, I used a violin because I consider the violin to be an instrument of the soul. Even if you see it in a picture, you can some way, somehow hear the sounds coming from the violin. And I created that image and I titled it Songs of Freedom because for me it signified freeing myself from every form of captivity or every form of ideas that was holding me back, every form of trauma I've had in the past, especially with the passing of my dad and every other thing. That was what the image signified for me. So I created the image, posted it out there, and that was like the beginning of something very big for me because then I realized that I wasn't the only one. Every single person was able to fit themselves into that image. And during that period, there was like an award happening called the Agora Awards Photo of the Year 2019. And I was like, oh, let me submit this image in the award and see if anything comes out from it. So this was in February, if I'm not mistaken. And I submitted the image, and from February, I totally forgot that I had submitted an image into the contest. So February, March, April, all the way down, I was struggling. I got kicked out from that place I was staying. I got kicked out, although I was trying not to get kicked out. Then I went to a second place, I got kicked out from there too. Then the third place, I got kicked out again. And it was like back and forth. I really could not understand what was happening. And my mother was in Nigeria at the time because she's she's Nigerian, so I'm half Nigerian. My mom, my dad is Ghanaian. My mom is Nigerian. And she had a place in Nigeria. So the option was for me to go to Nigeria and stay with her. But I didn't want to do that because I felt that if I made the mistake of doing that, then I put myself back into the box of being comfortable and feeling like I have something. But I just wanted to have that feeling that you have nothing, figure out something for yourself. And it wasn't nice, but I felt it was necessary. So I was still swimming in my struggles. And then somewhere around September, I woke up, saw an email saying that I've made it to the top 50 selected images for the best photo 2019. And I was shocked. And I was like, yo, what photo did I even submit? So I went, checked, and realized it was the same Songs of Freedom I had submitted like some months back. I was really excited. And then I got another email after some weeks saying that I've made it to top 3. And then the next week, I got another email saying that, well, this wasn't an email. This was now a video call because they said they wanted to have a video call. They didn't tell me I was going to win either. So if you go online, you see the whole video. I think I was emotional. I was about to cry and all that stuff. And they said I had won the award.
After 10 months of steep competition, thousands of people have voted for your photo Songs of Freedom in the Agora Awards 2019. Congratulations, Michael. You are the Agora Awards 2019 hero. So you have won $25,000.
I don't know what to say.
Your photo is the best photo of the year.
Please give me a minute.
Yeah, of course.
This was one photo amongst 130,000 people or submissions. And like, it was very overwhelming because for the first time in my life, finally really understood what it meant to win. And I finally really understood what it meant to really hold on when if all feels like it's lost. And my mom was very happy. She honestly wanted the best for me, but she really didn't see where I was trying to head to. She wasn't getting it. But then she supported me. She prayed. She always says she's praying for me. She always sends messages saying, don't forget to pray and all that stuff. So she was so happy, and she called, we cried and all that stuff. It was like an emotional thing. And because I had won, I was flying to Spain as well for the award ceremony and all that. So that was also the first time like leaving the continent to go somewhere else and to be honest with you, I didn't see it coming. Zero. Did not see anything coming. Every single thing that I have planned did not work. It's the one that I did not plan. And I totally removed my mind from it that happened and worked for me. And I was really grateful. I realized that I was thinking too much, that I had messed up my life. But I guess it's not so much of a bad feeling because it showed that I really cared about where I wanted to be. But then at the end of the day, I was really glad and very thankful to God for the strength and for keeping me on the path to where I needed to be. And that was how I was able to have enough. You ever watch those animations? You ever watch those animations where the main character is almost at the verge of dying, and then something just enters his head. You remember something, and then the energy just comes surging back in. That's how I felt. I felt that this is where I belong, and I can do a lot more if I given the chance. And now I have the opportunity to prove myself. So go and grab it. And that's exactly what I did. I made sure that I grabbed it with every single thing that I could get it with.
And Octavio Royo will now award the Best Photo of 2019 award to Michael Aboya.
My award in 2019 being ended, this gave me the opportunity to explore more. But before I go to the rest of whatever happened after 2019 and the whole celebration and all that, in 2020, 1st of January, my mom passed away. She had a stroke, and unlike my dad passing, my mom passing away kind of it did a number on me because it made me feel very weak because I'm like, what now? But this didn't give me strength in any way. It made me rather feel a little bit very weak, almost at the verge of giving up, because at that point where I really felt that I had actually done something and I can actually do something, especially with what my dad said, take care of the family, then my mom passes away. It was really hard for me to really process everything. And then I checked my messages and realized that my mom had sent which I'd already seen, she sent countless of messages saying, keep doing what you do and never stop never join any bad stuff. Be careful of who you move on with. I realized that although she did not say anything now, if she had a chance to, the one thing she would say to me is to keep going forward regardless of whatever happens. So in the moment of feeling weak and giving up, I decided that I would do what was best for myself and what my mom will be happy to see me do. So I decided to keep going forward. And in the process of doing that, I currently, which makes 6 years since I started my photography, I've been able to get 7 awards for outstanding visual storytelling through photography. I became an Adobe Lightroom Ambassador, first in Ghana. Also became the Adobe Lightroom splash screen artist. So when you open up Lightroom, you have my image over there, which inspired me, and I hope it did inspire other photographers and creators around the world. I also had Adobe came to Ghana to film me for Adobe Max, and the video is also on my page, which was very inspiring. The whole process was beautiful. I had quite a number of exhibitions, one in Barcelona, another in France, 2 in New York, and I had 3 in Ghana and 1 in the UAE. And the whole process has been very inspiring, very beautiful. And I always say that I still look forward to exploring our humanity and finding out what makes us who we are, because although all these things have happened during this short period of time, I'm still on that journey of actually figuring out what makes us who we are. And I still haven't found it. But then I feel like the time, or the only time that I might find it, is at the last moment when I put all these pictures together like a puzzle piece. And I hope that when they all come together, I would find that single answer that I've always been looking for. And I don't know yet, but till that time comes.
Go.
As a photographer and an artist, I try to focus on those aspects of finding out what makes us feel alive. When you focus on that, you get the true essence and you put that into a story, and that comes together as an inspiring piece. Before creating an image, I have certain elements that I'm looking for. Most importantly, it's in the facial expression. When I take an image, I know immediately that's the story right there. And most of the time, I can't wait to get home and then start working on that image.
Bring your head closer. Perfect.
When you look at the images, then you see what makes us who we are. I see love, I see happiness, I see freedom, and I see somewhere that I can call home. At the end of the day, I really look forward to being inspired and making someone's life a little bit better than it was.
So before my dad passed, he wrote a book, and that was my inheritance, because he clearly wrote it in there saying, Michael, this is your inheritance. And that book inspired me, because now I've seen all that he's been through and realized that what I'm going through doesn't even hold a candle to what he's been through. So if he was able to go through it and got married, have children, build a family, then why can't I? His book really inspired me, and I read other books like the one you brought in when you were coming, 48 Laws of Power? Yeah, that's a really, really beautiful one as well. Some feel passage in the Bible as well as really like being a guiding force for me to really hold on, especially in these times we find ourselves. In a world that is constantly trying to make you someone else, the most precious and valuable gift is to be yourself, because that's the only way you truly stand out and the only way you truly have a voice the times we find ourselves. So yeah, be who you are and stay true to yourself. One way I found to have fun is to explore, like travel and all that. I just pack up my stuff, sit in the car, drive like 8 hours away and see new places. Like the joy in just exploring the earth and getting to understand like the vast beauty of it and how this has all been beautifully crafted and placed together brings me joy. But I don't do it alone. I do it with like very close friends, and we all go out there to see the world together and be grateful. Yeah, I believe that everyone has some form of vivid imagination. You always sit down to imagine stuff. Some people might say, my imaginations are not that vivid, but have you tried imagining someone that you truly love, like your girlfriend, your boyfriend? Like you sit down, you close your eyes and you can see them doing stuff, or you guys doing stuff together, traveling together, being together and all that. Like that vividness of it, that's where I kind of like tap my visions from. Anytime I close my eyes, I can see myself doing stuff, I can see people doing stuff, and I try to figure out how to bring that into reality. If I was a painter, I'll probably be drawing them out, but I suck at painting. I'm the worst at it. So I find that the best way to do that is through photography. But then I do try to draw a little bit of it just to give it that excitement of actually starting the process and making sure that I finish it. So I would have like a quick drawing on my iPad or on a book that I have with me and write something down. If I can't draw it and it's too complex for me, especially maybe two people dancing together, and I feel that now this will not look good in the drawing, then I just write that down and I try to write some steps on how to make that happen. And then I go out there, I look for the locations, and because I want the emotions to really stick out and come true to the viewers, I always look out for the lighting conditions in those locations, the colors they reproduce during sunset and sunrise, and especially for our skin, what lighting conditions works best. And then I also spend time in certain communities to understand the people and to see if these ideas I have fits in this community or fits for this specific person. And then I create the story around them. But then most importantly, making sure that I do not change who they truly are, but keep it natural to its environment and make it feel like something very precious that you can really call your own. Not just me, but the people I photograph and the viewers of the photographs as well. And that has been like my creative process through in my photography. I find that sometimes people think I'm not doing a real job. Like, go find yourself a real job, stop playing. I think during my early stage, I had someone tell me that you're not serious. What makes you think this photography thing is going to take you anywhere? I also find that most of the time, the moment you pick up a camera, I don't know for other parts of the world, but what I've experienced is that you look like, or it feels like you're the least most important person in the room until someone needs a picture. And I feel that shouldn't be the case, because every photographer, be it whatever event or wherever they find themselves, are equally as important as everyone else, because they're doing a very important job of capturing the moment, which in 10, 20 years time, you would still have to really understand and remember what happened at that point in time. And these are the things we see nowadays. And I really hope that it gets to a point where someone can be, or I can be somewhere in here, a little child or someone say, wow, I want to be a photographer because of what this person has been able to. I really don't like hearing stuff like, or saying stuff like, oh, I want to be a photographer because I will be able to capture or photograph as many women as I can, or I will be able to do certain things, which is not like inspiring enough. But it should go deeper than that, to the point where people want to be photographers, want to be storytellers, because they feel they can make a change and bring about a change through photography. How do I want to be remembered? That's a really good question, because to be honest, I've never really thought about it. But at the end of the day, I feel like if my last thought for my dad or my mom was basically that they were someone who like really cared and they did their best to give their best, and basically always tried to make sure that everyone they cared about was okay. I feel I also want to be remembered along the same line, as being someone that really cared and focused on what really matters through photography and outside of photography, and also be someone that wasn't scared to speak and tell and share stories of the aspects of what makes us feel alive and what makes us who we are. But most importantly, I hope that when everyone looks at my images, they would be able to see some part of me in there one way or another. My name is Michael Aboya, and you've just seen and heard the wonders that have got me here today. Thank you for listening.